How old is Landon again? 12?
He's 14 now.
Oh my.
I know.
What?
It's crazy.
Y'all are
Absolutely
like
crazy.
You have a teenage boy.
He's going to be a freshman in high school.
Holy fuck. How does that feel?
Dude, I'm fucking old. Hello, listeners. Thank you for tuning again. I know we have taken another hiatus, but I've been busy immersing myself in the world of piercing. That is my full-time career, so very much in that. But this is a guest that, I mean, probably 3 years we've been talking about having them back on. Met them. I don't even know how we officially met, actually.
I think we probably met through the local music scene, the mutuals,
Something like
the
that.
Facebook mutuals, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, you can use he, him with me.
What did I say?
You just were using they, but that's totally okay too.
Oh.
I take everything. I'll take whatever.
This big dick motherfucker.
Thank you. There we go. Yep. I'll take that. Absolutely.
I met him. So that was probably 6 or 7 years ago. Something like
It was
that.
a minute. Yeah.
Because I
At
think you would
least.
either were just about to graduate high school or had
Yes.
just graduated high school.
Yes, literally. But also, we'll get into that more.
So we did some photos.
Yeah.
And honestly, you were the first person that I had really delved into the pronoun game. Oh, by the way, Dan Dotseth.
Yes. Wow, good
Did
job.
I say it right?
First try. That's tough for most people. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. No, thank
We
you.
also have Saul Domingo.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Yes. My emotional support person with me today is my partner, Saul.
And
That's
for the
me.
very first time, Loki, the one-eyed pirate that I've spoken of many times.
I'm so happy I get to be the one
You
that
get to
gets
be the first.
Yes, no, I knew as soon as I walked in. I was like, yes,
No, he's coming.
they will be here.
He does a very good job of chilling.
He's great.
It's fantastic.
He's amazing. Look at him.
I
He
love
knows that
him
we're
so
homies.
much. So anyways,
Yeah.
young Daniel,
Yes.
did you grow up in Foley?
No.
Where'd you grow up?
No, I grew up in the Brainerd area.
Gross.
I know. I grew up more specifically in Ironton, Minnesota. Crosby, Ironton.
Oh.
Yeah, if you know where Crosby is.
Mhm.
Ironton is the little leech on Crosby, which is already not that big of a leech.
Yeah.
So, it was 500 people, a village, probably, as a legal term. It's, the kind of place everyone. I drove through here, driving through here made me I was like, fuck, reminds me of being up north again. I was pulling off into the little exit off of the one lane little road coming up to your place. And I was like, yeah, this reminds me of being up north again. Yeah, never want to go back up there. Well, I will to bring other people there.
I was going to say, so is your family still in that area?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a family that was not necessarily conservative in a small town, which is still a rare experience for being in a town of 500 people.
Yeah.
But they're like the Hillary Clinton Democrats.
Okay.
The Joe Biden Democrats.
Right.
The real Democrats.
I'll give money to the black community as long as I don't have to go to the black
Correct.
community.
As long
those
as I
kind
don't
of
have
people.
to act like I would be friends with them, it's fine. Or with gay people, it was yeah, we totally support y'all 3,000%. We will write y'all shit off for our taxes, but as long as it's not one of us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. No shit.
So, we don't want to have to deal with that on our own.
Can't have any politicians that are...
No.
Yeah.
So that experience growing up, I had a lot of women in my family. So the quintessential passive-aggressive Minnesotan mothers was the precedent that was set for me. And not all of them. My mother was an ER nurse.
Oh, shit.
ER/OR nurse, and
Mhm.
she's retired now. One of my aunts is still working as a nurse. My grandmother was a nurse.
Holy shit.
My Aunt Christy took a little bit of a different path and just went to receptionist school in the 80s and then married for all of her money.
That's very funny.
Several times, I know.
I still can't believe that receptionist school was a thing.
It was a thing. It was a fucking thing. And it was just there so girls like my Aunt Christy, and I will say her name, I hope you're watching, could just say that they went to school and did something, you know? But she always knew. She always knew that her money was not going to come from her.
It's going to come from a different pipeline, dude.
Absolutely. And you know what? Get the bag, sis. If you're going to, you know, these men were stupid enough to do it. So, like, good on you, girl.
Okay, let's get more. I'm going to get more specific.
For sure.
So, sibling-wise.
Yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
I have one.
A sibling?
A sibling. She is my half sibling.
Okay.
We have the same mom. We're siblings, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But she's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
So I was not the one that was a mistake, actually, as some people have asked me.
No, I get that.
Yeah. It's like, were you the one that was unplanned? No, I was very planned, actually. And my sister has some learning disabilities. She's on the spectrum.
Okay.
She's more of a moderate, not low functioning, because my sister, I would say, has the functioning age of probably an 11, 12-year-old. So she's very smart in certain ways. She's way better at computers than I'll ever be. It's incredible. Video games growing up, my sister was the one that got me into video games. She was very good at them. Any like little random tidbit of information of like a movie that she hyperfixates, she'll give you everything for it, you know? And also my sister is legally blind, so she has some
fun.
Vision. It was better when she was a kid, but it's progressively worse.
Oh,
basically, I guess
it's like a degenerative thing.
I think. I think the issue, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I feel like a terrible sibling. Her eyes aren't the problem. It's like the optic nerve did not develop properly.
Interesting.
So,
all right, too much information about your sister. We're here to talk about you.
Hey, you want
what I wanted was you have a sister.
I do.
They have a disability.
Yes.
So you grew up already kind of being introduced to not necessarily counterculture, but it's a very different way of living.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, yes, I did grow up in a little bit of a counterculture. I would consider my family to be very redneck. And also musicians. Yeah, both of my parents were musicians and were around them for most of my life. It was very natural to me to be around a stage.
Your mom played the saxophone?
No, I wish. That would be sick. No, I played the saxophone. My mom plays keyboard. She plays guitar. She sings. She's one of the best singers ever.
Oh.
And my dad was a drummer. And then I think the story was that he was in a band, and his bandmates were like, I think you'd probably be better off just being a bodyguard, because my dad was massive. He was a very large man. And he was like, yeah, all right. So then he just started bouncing instead of playing drums. But I think that's how
different kind of percussion.
Exactly. Beating the shit out of dudes that are being assholes to women. Yeah, that was, yep. So I would say yes. I grew up in a pretty interesting little pocket.
Yeah. Well, and so what I was trying to say was like growing up, having the concept of acceptance already being a part of your core values.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So with that, how old were you when you moved out of that town?
Ironton, I moved to Deerwood, which was another small town.
Yeah.
I moved there when I was 10.
Okay.
And then when I was 12, the house got foreclosed on, and we were in a little bit of ruin, perilous financial ruin.
A little bit of perilous.
And so we had to move to Brainerd, which was the biggest town I'd ever lived in.
Yeah.
Of a whole 13,000 people. I was, 12 when we moved over there. And then I left for St. Cloud when I was 16. I dropped out of high school. There was a lot that kind of happened in that period of time that led me to moving out early. But
so the big question being, so you get out of Ironton, get out of Deerwood, you're in Brainerd.
Yeah.
You said you were 12?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't recall what the visibility of like the trans community was.
Oh, very little. I mean,
But what I do know is, as far as online goes, like Reddit was a big resource, which I wasn't aware of until, I don't know, like 5 years ago, maybe.
Totally.
Which is such an interesting thing, because for the people that came before you, like, it was such a completely different struggle.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
But that is such an interesting and empowering thing.
Mm-hmm.
You remind me of myself of when I like became an atheist.
Yeah.
Because it happened, and I was like, I looked at the world around me and was like, oh my God, you're all blind. Like, it's insane to me that I'm the minority. Like,
I feel like I'm being gaslit, you know? Yeah, that's like, yeah, I feel that.
So when I saw, like, when we started to talk about pronouns and all of that stuff, and then I started to see your online presence, I was very much like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get the anger. I get, like, it shouldn't be this hard.
Yes.
Which is hard. It's hard to get people to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I was an angry, outspoken atheist for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And for certain people, like, unaware, like, it made them feel better knowing that there was somebody out there doing that.
Yes.
So what I've said, and I think I've even used you as an example, is every civil rights movement, there has to be loud people.
Yes.
Like, that, genuinely, like, every civil rights movement has had, listeners, I apologize, but us old white guys.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Our main complaint all the time was, do you have to be so loud about it?
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
you can be this way. You can be that way.
It's fine, but just shh.
Away from me, you fucking fiend.
Like, people will try to bring up Martin Luther King as an example, and it's like, he was the loudest person.
He did do riots. Okay.
Yeah.
The man actually did riots. It wasn't just always peace and love. He understood that there needed to be some violence sometimes.
Yeah. But so, like, when people, like, so nowadays, the version of that is like, oh, it's so complicated to remember everybody's he, they, them, all this shit. And I fuck up all the time. But it's also, people's fear is that if I don't nail this every single time, then I'm going to fucking get crucified.
Yep.
And it's like, it takes 2 seconds.
It's
I do it at the shop all the time. I'll be like, let's play the pronoun game. I'm he, him. What's going on with you guys?
Yeah.
And if that's like a slightly insensitive way of doing it, whatever. It's better than being like, what are you again?
Yeah, no. No. Please don't do that. Yeah, I would say that like, for me, I haven't had to worry about people misgendering me in a long time, unless it's from the back. Usually the hair now that would do it. And then I turn around and I'm like, hi. And they're like, oh, I am so sorry. As a child, I had no idea what this was. Like, I still grew up in a very kind of bubble in a way, because I'm terrible with technology.
Okay.
No, I am not. Like,
so what was your resource then when you started to? Here, let's rewind, because we're kind of ADDing all over.
We are. I know. I was going to say, I don't
my,
even know. Yeah,
my journalistic instincts.
I appreciate that.
So
I need that.
This is why I was hyper focusing on Brainerd, because you're introduced to more varieties of people.
Barely, but yes.
But I mean, at least more so than those small towns, because people do drive through Brainerd. Yep. There's people coming in and out of there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, it's just one of those towns that everybody's been to for some reason. You're getting slightly more exposure.
For sure.
You're also of an age, of a generation where it's kind of expected for you to know more.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
So when you're starting to learn that, because 12 that's like the age. That's when it starts.
You'd think, yeah.
Because next is teenager.
Yep.
If I'm going to be a teenager, I need to fucking know this and what's it going to look like.
Absolutely.
So is that when that kind of questioning started?
No. It was way before that.
Really?
Oh, I knew something was up long before that.
Interesting.
I think I always was the kind of kid that, when the teacher would ask everyone to put the chairs away. I
Mm.
was the one grabbing 10 chairs because I wanted to prove I could,
Yeah.
at a very young age. And my dad was very much a man's man. So I was raised around pretty tough dudes too. Um, I was more of a tomboy, if you will, growing up. So like I did what the boys did, And my mom wanted me to like be social, and I'd go to like the girls' birthday parties and stuff, and I would not be doing anything with them. They knew I was not. They knew I was not one of them, I think, too, because I remember being, like, put in a closet on several occasions. Don't know why. I can't remember doing anything that could be warranted for
Oh, a
me to
literal closet. Oh,
literally.
that's funny.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was a fun time. Yeah. So, I knew at a young age there was just something that, like, wasn't right, but, like, I'm not gonna say anything about it because I didn't have words for that.
Sure.
But my kindergarten photo, like the first day of school picture, my mom with me and my sister at the bus. My sister is wearing her cheetah print getup as she would, and then I was in a green Adidas tracksuit, and I look like a boy
Hell yeah.
in that picture. And I remember my dad took me for my first day of school outfit, going to buy it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
Clothes shopping.
clothes shopping. Yes, that. And he took me with his girlfriend at the time, who was just I'm trying to think of a good term that isn't trailer trash, but that.
Mm.
And
You could call her a toot.
there you go. That. And she showed me this god awful dress. This just like frilly little dress. I remember. I'll never forget it. And I just went, no. And then yeah, we went over to the fucking sportswear section because that's all he knew. And he's like a dad. Also, my dad, not ready to be a dad at all. He was doing his best. So he's like pulling everything. I was like, fuck, I don't know what to get this kid. I was refusing everything that they were pulling out.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, that green tracksuit, that's what I wanted. So, yep, that's what we bought. And from a young age, my mother could not put me in anything that was a dress or anything feminine really, except for Easter or like, Christmas, like the big holidays that I had to be around family.
But so the thing that I'm curious about, because I hear this type of story a lot. Yeah. What I'm curious about is like when you look back on it, yeah, all of that stuff makes sense. Yeah. The hindsight part of it. But when does it start to like actually click as it has something to do with gender identity?
I would say, yeah, like it was 13, I would say.
Okay.
Probably 13, 14, I would say that was when I cut all my hair off. That was when I started going by they, them. I was 14. And it was literally because I was behind on the internet, honest. I would have found out about it earlier if I would have like known about it.
Yeah.
But my mother made sure I had no idea how to use the internet properly because I'm pretty sure we had dial-up until I was like 8.
Oh, wow.
She's so bad. I love you, Mom, but she's so bad at the internet, and so am I. And it's okay. My life is in the real world anyway, so it's like whatever. But yes, I did not learn about like the wording of it or anything until I was probably like 13. I'm like, oh, that's like a thing people do. That's like a thing. That's not just in my head. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Do you remember where? Like, are there any like landmarks that like saw something on TV, or like when did you start going to concerts and stuff?
Oh, I've been going to concerts my whole life.
Right.
So I think a big part of it was I was already kind of okay with the whole gender fluidity thing from a young age. Cause I mean, I grew up listening to Prince. And
yeah.
I grew up with all the hair metal bands. And I don't care who you are. Those men are in spandex. Okay. That was pretty gay. It was. It's very gay.
It's hilarious.
And it's so spectacularly, gay that it was just what I kind of grew up around. And it wasn't that big of a deal, you know, to me. When I figured out what the word was, it wasn't like this huge, like, oh my God, what does this mean? It more was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm trans. Like, sick. I was waiting, you know, for a word. And the only real exposure I had to trans people growing up was like, I hate to say it, but you know, the neighborhood cross dresser, you know,
Sure.
the small town, oh, they're out again, you know,
Yeah.
like that kind of shit, you know? And so it's not good. No one ever looked at it in a good way.
100%.
And so I did grow up around it in a negative connotation and it being a mental illness and that this person should probably just be in the bin, you
Hmm.
know, instead of out walking around on the street. And so kind of compartmentalizing that from a young age, I thought I was just a lesbian, you know? I think I was in 4th grade when I told my mom I thought I was like a lesbian and like I started wearing like really butch outfits. And then later on I learned nope, it wasn't that. It was not that. I was a dude the whole time. Cuz yeah, no, I figured out I was like I thought I was non-binary gender fluid
Right.
cuz that's a term I found because I could not
Sure.
think of myself being a complete, you know, the opposite of who I was. So, you know, the gender fluidity thing, I was like, yeah, no shit, whatever. I've been doing that my whole life. You know, that's why it was like, yeah, there's a word for what I've been doing the whole time. And so I had that kind of identity and it really helped me to like build the confidence of myself as a queer person and in a small town. And yes, Brainerd is not as small as where I was born, but still small. Like I mean it was lots of rednecks, honestly, just because it's bigger. um, I think it's because of the fact that there's so many fucking farmers
Yeah.
and hunters and construction people. And yeah, they got kids. They got a lot of them. Got a lot of them up that way, and they don't know how to act right a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I just have always felt a very huge need to do something when I see something that's wrong, or say something if someone's doing
Well, that's
something.
why I think your upbringing, having your sister,
Yes.
um, it evokes something that says it's not that you're like, you know, I don't think of it as being ableist,
Yeah,
but like it's I mean for me it's a codependency thing.
for
So
sure.
like my thing is like ever since I can remember my thought has always been they're not going to do anything about it. So I have to be the one to
Absolutely.
interject
Me
myself.
too.
Um are we codependency brothers?
Yes, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. The parentified child, you know, being the one to have to say something to know that you're okay. You
Yeah.
know, like that was a big part of it was like I knew that I was the only one that could advocate for myself at times. So I had to get the fucking balls to say it, you know, or whatever. But also, my parents raised me in a way to, yeah, they knew that I would be supported if I was to do something in case of someone being an asshole. Oh, Bubba, you were doing so well.
What's up, doo-doo? With your friend group, did it feel like that started to be an aspect of your friendship? Is talking about gender identity
No.
stuff? No?
That wasn't until I mean, even when I came out as non-binary, it was still very, like, weird. Like, it was still I still lived in a very isolated community,
Mm.
and it was still, like, my friends were not sure, but they're like, "Yeah, sure, buddy," you know? Like, "Alright." You know, "We'll do our best." You know? Just I had good friends. But I would say something I've noticed with a lot of queer people is that if you're friends with queer people, like I do still have a few friends I talk to from when I was like in high school or even elementary school,
Oh,
like a
sure.
handful. And the one thing that has combined all of us is we learned that we were queer in some way or some shape or form once we were older. Like
Yeah, I'm gonna let him out real quick.
I would say I was like 13, 14 when I like started watching like RuPaul's Drag Race because I had some friends that were into it. And mind you, these were boys that said they were not gay. Not gay.
On RuPaul or the people that you were hanging with?
My friends that showed me the show. Um, and it's funny because we look back And there's one friend of mine in particular, he was dating this girl, and I always joke with him, I'm like, "Do you ever think about her sometimes still?" And he's like, "Absolutely not. That was a great experience to make me know I was gay." It's like, yeah, and, so I would say, yeah, definitely, like, 15, 16, I was starting to have more friends that were, like, coming out, and I've noticed a lot, like, in my life up to this point that I've had a lot of friends or just acquaintances or people I knew from when I was younger that have come out as trans
Mhm.
in one aspect or another. And some of them have reached out to me and been like, "Hey, I just wanted to like let you know that like you were a huge part of me like finding myself as a person because I saw you when we were younger and like you were confident to be that way.
Mhm.
And so it did really help me to like be this way now. It just took me a little bit longer, you know? And that's why I do things, you know? I knew at a young age that like I'm okay with it. I'm confident in myself in that part of my identity. I don't need validation from people to tell me that I'm okay. I'm a good
Mhm.
person. Especially at that age too. I was just like feral, you know? I just wanted to prove a point, you know? I was living out of spite. Hella,
Yes.
way more. Yeah.
So, okay. Now, obviously, this is a huge part of your journey. However,
Yeah.
you do also, and maybe I'm projecting, but I'm assuming that you have some other fun mental health stuff going on.
Absolutely. How'd you guess?
Because, like I said, we're similar in a lot of ways,
Oh, yeah.
and because of that, my mind usually starts to go to like, um, could you not? God, unbelievable.
It's just because it's bumping
Yeah,
here.
well, you know what? Deal
You know
with it.
what? You know what? Be in
I
pain.
will. I'll just do this the whole
Oh
time.
my god. Please
Yeah,
no.
isn't it so much
Please.
worse?
Please no. Please.
No, if you want to stand up and scooch it, that's totally fine. I was just fucking with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
I thought it was actually disturbing.
No.
No. Part of the frustration of like being like no like learning that at a young age,
Mhm.
because I feel like most of us who are like that, we do learn at a fairly young age that we're like confrontational with teachers,
Yeah.
like certain aspects of authority, because we know that they don't know the whole story of my friend who they're being shitty to or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this like maddening thing, but I feel like that eventually turns later on in life. They're like, oh, hey, you're bipolar.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. No,
Or
thankfully not that
you
for
have
me, but
whatever. Like, so what I can't quite pinpoint what I would assume
yeah,
other than
armchair psychologist me.
yeah. Other than the codependency thing,
For
because
sure.
it's very similar to myself.
Yeah.
Which there's certain things that like I go, you know what? It's whatever.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to nicotine.
Yep.
Whatever.
Whatever.
I have codependency. Like 9 times out of 10, it's a pretty positive thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Has it gotten me in trouble?
Yes.
1000%.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But beyond that, yeah, like, did you like? Were you struggling with depression?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Oh, plenty. Yeah. From a young age, I mean, I think depression was probably depression, anxiety were definitely probably the first things.
Which is always funny, like when, like for people to learn that like extroverted people can be anxious.
Yes, very much so. Actually, kind of propels the extrovertedness at times.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, faking it till you make it.
Imposter syndrome,
Yes.
like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had to work through a lot of that. Yeah, I would say it was definitely. I mean, I had a pretty volatile situation growing up. Both of my parents struggled with certain mental illnesses. My dad never got like help for anything. He never got diagnosed with anything, but I'm sure he had ADHD. Like I'm sure he had ADHD and depression at least. You know, just looking back on it. And my mother has depression and anxiety and PTSD from things in her life, and also ADHD and probably BPD, add all the little acronyms you want, you know? But it's because she's had a hard life. And both of my parents had plenty of trials and tribulations that they had to deal with. My dad was adopted by his great grandparents because
Whoa.
because my grandmother, his mom, was like 16, 15 when she had him.
Wait, his great grandparents or your great grandparents?
My great great grandparents.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no,
That's a new one. I've
my
never
great
heard that
great
before.
grandma Laverne. Yep. She died when I was 11. She was quite the woman.
Wow.
I never met Richard, his adopted dad.
I heard he was a dick.
Yeah, no, actually he
Soundboard.
named his child Richard as well. And you want to know what I had to call him? Grandpa Dick.
Grandpa Dick.
And I just looking back on that, I hate that. Yeah, so he grew up like it was the Great Depression basically because
Yeah.
his parents raised their children in the 30s.
That's so wild.
Literally. They were retired. And so
You want to talk about generational trauma? Like,
fuck yeah.
that's such an interesting form of that's you're
nuts.
missing a massive part of
Yep.
history.
My dad was born in 70. So
Oh, that's so crazy.
yes. And so he was raised quite differently than most people in that time, even at that time, were raised.
Yeah.
Like that's still a long time ago, but it was like even worse. Like
Yeah.
there was segregation when they were raising their children. like black people couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Like that was, and he would say that he's like, when I was growing up, black people walked on that side of the street and we walked over here. That's just how it was. And I'm like, Dad, you sound like an oil mill, an oil
Yeah,
billionaire,
yeah.
some fucking tycoon.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. He was like very much the fat nerdy kid, like me.
Oh, interesting.
I also was that way when I was younger. And so was my mom. It's the fat nerdy kid to like hot alternative person pipeline. Both
Yeah,
of my
yeah, oh,
parents
for
were
sure.
Also that way. Yeah, no, my mom had the big perm. She was in a band.
Fuck yeah.
She wanted to be in Van Halen. So that's the pipeline. You learn at a young age, if you grow up in these types of situations, how to get attention elsewhere and how to maybe redirect your insecurities into other things.
Yeah.
And people. And so, yeah, like that was my dad. And my mom grew up with my maternal grandmother. Love her, miss her to death. But she was not great. Neither was my maternal grandfather. Never met either of my grandfathers.
Oh.
They both died way before me. And he was both alcoholics. Everyone on both sides of my family are alcoholics. I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say, I feel like we talked about that a while back.
No, that's
the
big alcohol.
the addiction thing. So, not to cut you off, but
No.
like mental health is. I'm convinced that I have not met an addict who didn't have at least baseline anxiety.
Absolutely.
And so to try to address one thing without addressing the other,
You can't.
yeah,
They're together because
100%.
you can't. People don't go looking for drugs or something to help unless they need something that they want help with.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's a pride thing, or even you're not even realizing it's because of your mental health that you're looking for relief. Because we kind of bargain with ourselves a lot.
Absolutely.
We make excuses for why we're doing things to make that okay instead of, because we don't know the better coping mechanisms is the thing. It's like,
or like what you were saying with not even knowing that there were there was a term for your identity. There are people who grew up not knowing that anxiety was even a thing.
Yep.
It was just,
I hear it almost every day.
I don't want to go out and do anything because so-and-so's an asshole, or because I'm sick of this. Like, you do all of those things. It's never because you have anxiety. It's they look at the world and go, no, have you
It's
seen
attacking me.
Have you seen outside?
The world sucks,
It's
man. We can't
fucking
go out there.
insane.
Yeah, no. Well, and hey, I mean, if you live in that much of a bubble, yeah, you will force yourself to not do a damn thing. And that was kind of my grandmother. Like, she refused to admit she had anxiety, but she was taking Ativan the whole time.
That's another funny thing is they'll pill the fuck up, but
They fucking
still
will.
still don't say
Nope.
That it's because of a thing.
Nope.
It just helps calm my nerves.
It's just I need it for the plane ride, okay?
Yeah.
You know, like this is what they give me for the plane.
Mhm.
It's like, I know you're taking it more than the plane, honey, you know? And that's all right. And that's the whole point, is it's okay to need it
man.
for more than just the plane.
So when it comes to the generational trauma stuff of like when you start to learn like certain family dynamics, you learn too quickly
Yes.
about what's going on. So I'm curious as to like when you started. God damn it, Sal.
I know.
When did you start to learn about some of the things that your mom had gone through? Like, were you very young?
No.
No. Okay.
No, my mom tried her very best to be super mom
Okay.
until it was impossible to do so anymore. So that's probably why it was like so hard for me to kind of like get over it,
Mm.
because she was very good at hiding it. And from a child, you know, like you have no idea what like mental health symptoms look like. You know, she was very much the type of mom that would go above and beyond for a lot of different things, like the birthday parties. Oh my God, she would be up for 3 days, literally no sleep for 3 days prepping for a birthday party. And like, you know, night beforehand, she didn't sleep, you know, no sleep. But the house looks fucking phenomenal. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing is out of place. She went and got the right cake. You know, she got my favorite, you know, everything. The scheduling of the party, who's going, you know, she was very good at that. But it was definitely part of her manic depressive problems.
Mm.
Because she'd be out the next couple days, you know, just dead. Very hard to get out of bed, you know. And I didn't notice that as anything when I was a kid. It was just my mom, you know. That's what all moms do, right? Right? So, you know, that was my normal. My parents split up when I was like 2 or 3.
Okay.
It was not a long time. And then they were officially divorced when I was like 5. There's probably a lot of different things that went into that. That was not a good one. I always joke with my mom. I'm like, you really knew how to pick the good ones, didn't you? My mom, my dad, my sister's dad, any subsequent boyfriends, really. You really know the good ones. And it turned into, you know, separate, you know, living 2 different houses,
Mm-hmm.
and partial custody for a while. But my dad had a very, very, very bad alcohol addiction.
Mm.
And he just refused to believe he had one. He was the kind of guy who would be stumbling in the door and would be like, I'm not drunk. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, like he just genuinely thought he could drink that much. And he did drink that much a lot. Like he just didn't have a license. He just drove the speed limit after a certain point, you know.
Oh,
like,
yep.
They just took away his license, you know, for good after a certain amount of DWIs. One of which was with me in the car. I was 5
Oof.
I was 5 years old. And I remember the story. I remember it like it was yesterday. We were supposed to be going to Menards for a grill. For some reason, we stop at his friend's house, who was also my babysitter, him and his wife.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, my dad and his girlfriend were friends with these two, who also had children. I would go over to their house for daycare. So we went over there for some reason, whatever. I go and hang out with one of the kids. You know, we're playing video games in his room. And video games, time passes, you know, and you're a kid too. I was a child. I had no idea how much time had gone by.
Mhm.
It was like 3 or 4 hours we were there. We weren't going to Menards for a grill. That was a total lie. Because I'm sure by the time we left, it was probably about to close anyway. But I passed the hell out. I was like 5, and it must have been like 8:30, 9 p.m., you know? So I was out in the back of the car as soon as we got in the car. But then my dad apparently proceeded to get in a high-speed chase downtown Brainerd,
Oh my God.
and like almost took out a fucking gas thing, you know, at the gas station downtown. And I'll never forget waking up, and the car was stopped. We were in the gas station. And the lights behind us, you know, and I look behind me and my dad's right there behind the car,
Oh.
with like 4 or 5 cops with their guns on him, telling him to get on the fucking ground. And this man, it's a great testament to him as a person. He had his wallet out and was asking them how much. How much do I have to pay y'all? And he's drunk as fuck, like thinks that will work.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend at the time was about to be arrested. Like she was about to be put in handcuffs. And she kicked the cop in the shin to come back over to the car and ask me if I was okay
Holy fuck.
as I watched her do that. And then she got taken away again. And so the cops thought that Donna and my mom was my mom.
Oh, okay.
So they were about to fucking send me to foster care.
I was going to say,
they were about
yeah.
to send me to the home because they did not know that was not my mother. So the nice cop lady, looking back on it, I knowing now that they were about to take me somewhere. She's like, yeah, we can like go get you a stuffed animal, like,
Oh.
like all this. And, asking me, what my mom's name was. And I told her Annie, Rayanne, my mother. And she's like, that's not Donna. And I'm like, yeah, no, Donna is not my mom. What the hell are you talking about? And, my mother she told me this later on. She made her phone number really easy for me to remember as a child. 218-838-6565. I will never forget it to this day. So yeah, he got, obviously custody was taken away at that point. He was in jail again for the umpteenth time of his life, probably.
So when your mom talked about your dad, was it in a negative way?
She just tried not to.
She just tried not to, okay.
Because she tried not to be negative, but my extended family had no problem.
Okay.
Saying he was a liar, he was a scumbag, had no problem telling me about how sleazy of a man my dad was, and what he did for work and everything, and, grifting people and all this shit. Just being told that my dad was not the man that he wanted everyone to think he was, and him, like I said earlier, my dad was like not prepared to be a dad whatsoever. Richard did not prepare him to be a dad. And then Richard, his adopted dad, died when he was 14. So then it was just Laverne. She was doing her best.
Her name was Laverne?
Laverne.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I know. She was quite the woman. Like I said, very much a spitfire. She was one of the best grandmas. I would have never known that she was so like spitfire. Like, because my dad would be like, she's so nice to you. It's like, she fucking yells at me. It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not her kid. I don't know. But yeah, so I would say that it kind of shaped me into a person that saw a lot of people struggling with alcohol problems, but I didn't know what they were. Because people don't just talk about that.
Right.
Your family's not going to just tell you about their alcohol addiction.
Right.
Nor will they tell you about, the mental illness. So, my mother didn't get into therapy until I got into therapy.
Which was?
When I was 11, 12.
So the reason I was asking, like, the way that your mom spoke about your dad is it's tough to figure out like the type of people that you want to be around when you're growing up and what types of adults to trust.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it comes from that, like the way that our parents talk about other individuals, and especially when you have a split home. And
she did her best, and I say that to her to this day. Like, I forgive you for certain things because I know you only had a certain amount of tools in your tool belt at the time.
Yeah.
And so I forgive you for, the maybe pretty toxic ways you coped with things around me as a child. Because I know you didn't know any better. You know now, you know now, and that's what I care about.
Well, and there's a lot of like, not, I don't know what else to say other than like deserve. Like there's this thing of thinking that we deserve. So like when I was an addict, or when I was in the thralls of my addiction,
Active addiction. There you go.
I was killing it at my job. Kids were happy. I was running an open mic. I'm like doing all of these things. and my drinking didn't affect any of those things. So I was like, why? What? Stop asking me to not drink because it literally affects nothing. Like when Kim had like started to try to get me to dial back, when I would talk about it with my friends, they were like, but why?
Yeah.
Because you don't drink and drive, like you don't do any of the alcoholic things.
Mhm.
It doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very easy to, I would imagine from your mom's perspective, she's so there for you.
Mhm.
She's so there for your sister.
Oh yeah.
She's working full time, doing all of the things. It doesn't register as to why you shouldn't be allowed to do that thing.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like,
If you're even if you are thriving, you're not, because
Yeah.
there's something. Like, why are you drinking that much? There's no point. Yeah, it's like, why are you drinking that much if everything is so good?
yeah.
You know.
And to quote Hillary Duff, why not?
Why not? Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is
Right? So
you end up
that's-
saying, why not? And it's a matter of being able to, keep your feet on the ground and know that that will not lead you somewhere good.
Yeah.
Because I saw that at a very early age, that the lack of doing something about it, because it's okay, we're doing okay,
Mhm.
we're not doing okay.
But that all, I'm curious too, like, did that equate to like you being at home a lot?
In terms of,
And like, so for me, like, my brain was like, there's kids in the neighborhood to play with, there's video games.
totally,
I don't need to drive anywhere.
yep,
So let's just, wouldn't it be great to not have to go anywhere? Like
Yeah.
I would frame it in a way that like, you guys could do whatever you want.
yep.
So could dad.
So could dad. So could
But yeah,
dad.
That
Yep.
also equates to like, yeah, friends want to go to wherever. Well, I'm not going to
I
be
get that.
irresponsible and
No,
drive you
that's
somewhere.
good. No, that's great.
But you get what I'm
But
saying?
yes,
So like,
yes.
so I'm curious as to like, if you noticed that, because I think back now with like the way that my kids would look at me and it's like, yeah, they recognize that we're not going someplace because you're drunk.
Yes.
It's not because you're being fun, dad, or whatever. Like, so that's what I was curious about.
Well, my mom technically got sober when I was like 5 from drinking. When my parents got divorced, I think it was a little lesson for her. I think she was like, I shouldn't do that. My dad, running into the gas station, I don't think I can get down that road either, So I think that was when she was like, okay, we're going to not do that. But she got back on the saddle relatively sporadically, throughout the next decade or so. A lot of the time, I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know to this day, actually how many spans of time she actually would go without drinking. Because
Okay.
she would usually hide it if she was going to do it.
Right.
Because she knew I didn't like it. Because from a young age, I did not like when people would drink around me. It was always bad. Anytime there was someone drunk, there would be something that happened. Even things that I didn't understand but could just feel the bad vibe,
Yeah.
the
that looming
instability.
it takes away options.
Yes.
So rather than having all of your faculties about you, like the concept with drinking is that it's you time now.
Yep.
So like there's this sense of relief or
Mhm.
whatever, but for those on the opposite end of it, it's like, oh, you're taking options away from me.
Yes.
Now I can't rely on you in this sense, or
You are emburdened as a child to your parents.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you are stuck in your situation as a child. You can't go anywhere. That's you are at home,
Mhm.
And if your dad is at home being a drunk idiot, so are you. You're also there to witness it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, back to your point. Yes, I did see plenty of things that would make me do that. My dad would sometimes come home absolutely blitzed. And my mom's rule, okay, I need to give a little bit of background so this makes sense. My parents were not together when my dad passed away. My dad passed away when I was 14. At about 12, my parents decided to move in together again for financial reasons. So he was living with us until about 2 weeks before he died.
Holy shit.
So if I, say he came home drunk, they weren't together. It was just the living situation at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
So, just cohabitating.
Yeah.
for the children, basically. He slept on the couch. And yeah, he would come home drunk with his friend, and would wake me up school night. It's like 2 in the morning. Let's go jam. It's jam time. Because he was a drummer, like I said.
Mhm.
And I, at a younger age, really spent a lot of my time playing instruments, to get away from it,
Yeah.
everything going on. So I would spend hours and hours and hours practicing different things. So he knew that, and his friend played bass or guitar or whatever, and I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, of course I'm gonna get up and play drums or play guitar with my dad. Like, I don't care. It's a school night and I get to be up at 2 in the morning? Oh my god?" And, when I was younger like that, it was fun. It
Yeah.
was so fun, and then, you realized, like, well, my mom being like, "Sean, what the fuck?" What what makes you think that you can do that? And of course you're like, "Oh, mom just doesn't like any fun,
Yeah.
apparently," you
Well,
know?
and like we're trying to make up for like these failings that we have.
Yes, and that was
Yeah.
another thing I realized was the old man was feeling a little guilty, I think,
Yeah.
about all the times that he missed with me because of his drinking. Literally, sometimes physically in jail, because of his drinking away from me. And he just kept fucking up. He just kept fumbling. He kept fumbling over and over again. Um, and I think he just expected it to be fine because he was very much the kind of guy that, yeah, he was very flamboyant. He was the life of the party, very much, big guy, big guy energy. Like, he liked to be the center of attention. He
Yeah.
enjoyed it. And I think drinking obviously gave him a lot of confidence in that way. He could say what he wanted and didn't feel so anxious about it. But also it made it easier to not care, and not think about things. And I think with him, he was so deeply repressed with his drinking and any mental problems he may have had, that he just kept going. I truly think that he had nothing to help him get out of it, because there was no one in his life that did.
I was just gonna say,
There was no one in his life
yeah.
preceding that made it out of it. And so it's really unfortunate, because he had a lot to give the world. And so he, my mom, just one of these occasions happened where he came home drunk or was drinking at home, and those were the two rules my mom had for him living with us: was don't come home drunk and don't drink at the house, because she didn't want me to be around it, or my
Yeah.
sister. She lived with us for a little bit. Yeah, she threw all of his stuff out and locked the door. She locked him out, as she should have. That was absolutely her right to do that and keep that boundary. And he ended up going to, God, I mean, probably stayed with a friend for a little bit. And then one of his friends dropped him off at this motel. And my dad died 2 weeks after he was kicked out of my house.
What happened?
He basically had a cardiac arrest due to drinking and drugs.
Hmm.
He had really bad gout, so
Oh no.
he had painkillers, and he had been giving my mom some of his painkillers because her insurance was not like paying for hers, and my mom has a lot of physical problems as well. So he was being a nice guy and giving my mom his pain meds, I guess. And I assume, because there's no way for me to know exactly, but I assume it was that he probably was taking a similar amount that he was taking before he stopped taking it so much, and he had already been drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And, uh, you know, walking in on it was like, he fell asleep, you know. But, we went. It's very funny enough. It was right after a therapy appointment, um, where I had said, "Hey, I haven't heard from my dad in like 4 days about." And my mom was obviously upset with my dad. Very right, very, valid. She did not want to see him. And so for me, I was like, something felt wrong, you know.
Wait,
And
you found him?
yeah, my mom and I did.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Um 4 days. 4 days dead. The motel room was littered with beer cans and vodka bottles, like just you couldn't even walk. He'd probably only been there a couple days at that point too. And he didn't kill himself. A lot of my family kind of speculated that he did, but my dad was the kind of guy that would say like suicide is extremely selfish.
Hmm.
He thought it was an extremely selfish thing to do to the people in your life. Um, and he felt that very, very passionately. Like I remember him telling me that a lot because I had been struggling with my own suicidal ideations before he died. And he found me one time after I tried to hang myself with a belt. And I think that was the one time I saw that man actually almost like shit his pants, like his immediate
How old
reaction.
were you?
I was probably 12 or 13. And yeah, no, at that point, he had no idea how to fucking, he's like, hey, sport, how you doing?
Yeah.
He had no idea how to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So it's very much like, okay, like,
Yeah.
how's your day going, buddy? Like that kind of shit. He had no idea how to even ask himself that, so like I can tell he was just in upheaval, probably thinking about that. But
Oh, sure.
I knew he didn't kill himself. And
I see what you're
the
saying.
fridge was full. The little mini fridge. He had bought Oreos and a gallon of milk and shit. Like he was not planning on leaving.
Right.
So that was something that I thought would help me, but it made me angry. I was very angry at him.
Knowing that it was an accident?
Yes, accident. It was so stupid. Like oh my god, one thing. Like you could have just not done that. But he just kept going.
I mean, at that point, you start to say, "I deserve this."
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
Of course, I ended up in a hotel and all that shit.
All alone.
Yeah, and
shitty motel.
There's what else is there to do but to be you?
Yep.
And apparently, you drink, and you know what I mean.
Yep.
Like, I get that.
Yep.
Like big time.
Yeah, and had my aunt, his sister, my dad's biological sister, and her husband. Can't remember if they owned the funeral home or whatever, but they cremated my dad.
Holy shit!
Imagine being like her. Like they weren't close because they were half siblings and they were both raised by two different
Sometimes
people.
it's even more fucked up though.
Yes, because I think about that and I'm like, Christy, girl, how did you do that? Like, she legit, like, her older brother, like, on the fucking table.
Yeah.
And they asked me, my dad had to have an autopsy performed and everything because it was a suspicious circumstance. He was in a motel alone.
Right, yeah.
So they had to do a whole thing. He didn't even get cremated until about 3 weeks after he was dead. And they asked me if I wanted to go see him one more time. And I said, absolutely not. Oh my God. Like, having to see that last image of him was hard enough.
Yeah.
Like, on the bed.
Some people are weird with that. Like,
I don't want to see him. I want to remember him as he was. And it was already a hard enough image to get out of my brain. So I said, no, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'll get the bag of ashes afterwards. It's fine.
The bag of ashes.
Oh, my dad's, part of him is in a Tupperware container.
It's fantastic.
I couldn't pick I knew all the urns I was looking at for him. It's like, these suck.
Yeah.
Like he would hate to be in this for eternity, like a boring old silver urn or like, I don't know. It's just like,
there's tons of cool shit.
He would have appreciated the fact that I'm using my redneck ingenuity and I put him in a Tupperware container.
There you go.
I can take him wherever. Very reliable. I can drop it. It's fine. Not like fucking 2.5 Men where you got like, throw it and it's just everywhere,
I always think of Big Lebowski.
That too. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that one. Yeah,
because the coffee can.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, there was a lot of things I didn't really ever get to like resolve with him. More things I could not resolve than things that I had resolved up to that point.
So was he aware of the non-binary?
No. I came out as non-binary after my dad passed away.
After he passed away,
yeah.
Okay.
I came out to him as bisexual.
Okay.
He was very uncomfortable with that. My dad was like one of the only dudes I think I've ever met that was genuinely homophobic. He was scared of gay men.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because he would be like, I just don't want one to like come up to me and like talk to me. And I'm like, Dad, look at you, dude. one, what gay man is going to come up and just talk to you? 2, what would they do? He was a
Yeah.
bouncer. You can just say, "I'm good, thank you," and they'll leave you alone, you know? But that part of it, like that, as I've thought about it as an adult, I'm like, I have a feeling my old man maybe was not straight.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of times like,
And I think that may be a huge part of why he drowned himself in the New Amsterdam almost every night was the so deep set homophobia of how he grew up, you know, in the environment he grew up in. And like, but he was so flamboyant. He dressed well, you know, he like took care of himself. He did fucking drag while he bounced sometimes. Like, there's photos of it, you know, but just deep down, he hated like the thought of having to talk about it. And
oh
so
yeah, yes.
anytime I would be like, he would be like, ah, yes, this actress, she's so hot. Because of course my dad would do that. I'd be like, yeah, no, she's hot. And he'd be like, mm-hmm. Change the subject, you know, like I can do that too, you know, like we can maybe have that be something we can get along with.
Yeah,
you
she
know?
sits on your face, sits on my
Oh
face.
God, fuck no, absolutely not. But we can at least agree that that actress is attractive, and you should just be okay with that, you know. But he was, I think, just so like deep set in that awkward uncomfortableness with it that he couldn't get there with me. Whereas my mother, I thought I was going to be a whole fucking thing when I sat my mom down for some reason. She's one of the most like open-minded people ever. So I like sat her down in her room. It's like, okay, I'm bisexual. And she was like, we had to sit down for that? She was like, I was kind of just waiting for something, you know, like I kind of knew at some point you were not normal, you know. But you know, she's like, I'm sorry you felt like you had to sit me down and
Oh,
everything.
sure.
But you know, everyone thinks you do because it's shown it's such a big deal to do that whole thing, you know?
Mhm.
It's like, fuck. But no. My mom was just like, yeah, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know, you know? And so that's kind of how it was. And so I felt pretty affirmed. Like my dad respected me, like in my identity, but he just was like uncomfortable with it. He never
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to disown you because of this. You know, he was like, I can't tell you who to love, you know? And
Yeah.
I love you just the same, you know? And that's what he would tell me. So I'd like to think if he was around, I would hope to God that he maybe got a few brain cells and would be cool with me being a dude. Because I think he probably knew the whole time too. He'd always be like, "Show him your guns, Danny." You know, like, what do you expect? Like, I was in football because of him. You know,
Yeah.
like the whole thing.
So you go through all of these things, these gender affirming things, or just that fluidity of how your life could be lived.
Yeah.
And then my introduction of you was like very femme
Mm-hmm.
like looking.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see like, yes, I'm trans, but also I fucking love slapping on makeup and some
Absolutely.
high heels and like
Absolutely.
that whole like the concept of okay, you're trans, you're not allowed you're not
Oh, I
allowed to
know.
wear any of
Now
the
I'm
shit.
not allowed. I know. That's a big one. That's in the community. I mean, it's a very small faction of trans people that feel that way still, but like older trans people like to think that we have to act like men. Dot. You know, like we can't do anything out of the gender norm, and anyone that has a mental illness, basically. Which is ridiculous. You know, it's so internalized, like homophobia and everything else. Like it's literally it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other people do.
Well, if you think about it from this perspective, like so when we think about the people that came before us
Yep.
to try to normalize this stuff, they were constantly having to explain why they were the way that they were.
Yeah.
And so if you deviate from that, then you're confusing the people.
Yes.
So without them realizing it, they're continually having to service the people who are going to inevitably
Yep.
ask them questions.
Absolutely.
So if you do that, oh fuck, what are you doing? Now
Literally.
now people are going to be like, "Well, what is it? Are you a dude or are
What
you
is it? Yeah. No, pick one.
Yeah.
And it's not that, you know. And I have shifted my mindset as an adult too. There is no one or the other. It's all gray.
Yeah.
I've learned. in life, really. There's very few things that aren't, but like any relationship or anything that you have to think about, to a certain degree, there's so many different ways you can think about it.
Yeah.
And it's just how you frame things. So, like, uh, let me think. Trying to think of something
Well,
I've
I'm curious. So you start to do, or start to flow more with, the masculine
for
side
sure.
of yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then, so what caught your eye as to go into like the cosmetology route?
Oh, yeah.
Because
So,
it's the opposite of what you were
yes.
going. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes. So I'll tell you that I did not really lean into a whole masculine identity until I became an adult fully.
okay,
I would say in a lot of trans guys, I find there's a weird little area in the middle where you're hyper feminine. It's
Mm.
like you're like, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do, so god damn it, I'm gonna fucking do it. So that's what I did, and I was always really interested in makeup and like the art of it, I was so interested in like special effects makeup and everything. And like I just wanted to start dyeing my hair when I was a kid because I was a little emo kid. So of course I was on the internet looking on YouTube how to color my hair blue when I was 12. So it was more just for me, like I
yeah,
was more interested in like that part of it, not like, oh, I like doing my hair every day.
yeah.
I hate doing my hair actually. I try to do hair for people that don't like doing their hair. Because it's bullshit doing your hair. We shouldn't have to touch it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I would say I got into the cosmetology stuff because I knew I already had kind of an interest in it. I had been cutting my hair and my friend's hair for a long time when I decided to go into cosmetology, and it was better than college. I knew that as someone
Yeah.
who dropped out of high school, I have a GED. I went back and got my GED before I went to Aveda. Thank you. I passed all four at once. But uh I just was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I know I don't want to be a shopping cart person on the side of the road.
Sure.
And I don't want to do retail every fucking day because I hated it. That was all I did, because I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I was working retail, of course I was. And I knew I didn't want to do that and I wanted something more fulfilling. So I was like, I'll try hair. Because for the outcome to effort ratio, it was a pretty good deal. Like
Oh, okay.
reasonably less expensive than like college. It's only about a year here, and
But back to the thing.
yeah. Oh God, no, not the thing. No.
So the way that you would dress up and do makeup and things didn't feel like, at least it didn't appear to me like you were trying to make up for something.
No.
So that's what I was curious about, was like, was this, you're doing it because you can,
Yeah.
and you have like the artistic drive to do
Yeah.
certain things?
It was
Okay.
definitely more of like, okay, well, makeup is what girls do, and I can do weird makeup. I can still kind of be out of the box with makeup, and I can.
So there was part of the
It's like I guess like I grew up with a mom who didn't wear a whole lot of makeup.
Okay.
She had like the Maybelline 2-pack from like
Okay.
1998. It's just barely touched.
Yeah.
She just goes in there occasionally, special events. But other than that, I grew up. She was very very minimal. So if there was makeup being used, it was like mascara or eyeliner, very little.
Sure.
I knew that was a part of it. But like it wasn't really propelling me necessarily, but what was my need for attention.
Ah, okay.
That's what was propelling it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I at 14 is when I guess not to be like too, I guess we are not safe for work. I became sexually active at a young age, unfortunately, because of my very independent upbringing. I thought I should be doing that at that age. So yeah, my mom put me on birth control when I was 14 instead of, refusing to admit that teenagers will have sex,
Yup.
because we were.
I don't like this story because my son is 14.
I'm so sorry. Well, and it's true. I'm really very happy for you to see that you've come so far.
It's funny, like
in your recovery
just
journey.
a week ago, he was going to a dance or something.
Yeah.
And Kim was like, have you had the talk with him?
Oh my
And I'm
God.
like, I have,
Holy shit, we're here.
like a while
Yeah.
ago. But she was like, I think
I think it's time.
I think you need to do it again. So I just,
Real quick.
right before he got out of the car, I go, don't put your penis in weird places.
Yeah. Yep. Have fun. You know.
And then he's just like, oh, yep, okay.
Poor kid. You know. And I'm trying to remember if they really
But the
had
body
that.
dysmorphia aspect of being sexually active
Yes.
has got to be a fucking trip.
Yes.
Because I'm aware of like the frustration of being trans and still being attracted to what you were attracted to before. That's always a trip for people.
Yep.
Like, well, are you gay or did you just want to like whatever? So the frustration of, so let's say you're attracted to a girl.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, a man.
Yes.
You start dating said man.
Yeah.
Them not accepting that it's a gay relationship.
Yeah.
With being sexually active early on, how do you that just seems like it would be such a mind fuck to try to like, where am I going and what am I calling this? Like, am I in a gay relationship? Am I having gay sex? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, when I was younger, like, you know, the dudes I would hook up with, I would always joke. It's like, yeah, you're not straight, honey. Like, you're not straight. Yeah, whatever you think is not that's not it. You wouldn't be attracted to me if you were straight, you know? And that's the thing is like, I never looked like a conventional woman, you know?
Yeah.
I never identified in that way. And so I knew deep down that any of the dudes that I was fucking around with, yeah, you definitely are a little fruity, you know. I'm happy to be the one to help you figure that out, you know. That just you got to be honest with yourself, you know.
yeah.
And so, you know, I definitely like fell into the really unhealthy coping mechanism of like I needed to be everything.
Okay.
Everything I did had to be perfect. I had to be good with everyone. I want everyone to like me, you know. And it was because I was so alone feeling in my own head a lot of the time because the people and the adults in my life weren't giving me what I needed in terms of like validation and affirmation and, you know, all that shit. They just assumed I was good because I, you know,
Yeah.
I was fine, you know. But like, yeah, I fucking would like a little assurance here and there. I'm doing a good job. Yeah. And so yeah, that did create quite a bad want of attention from
Yeah.
men specifically.
That's interesting too.
Yeah, it was I mean, my first long-term boyfriend was when I was 14 and he was 21 years old.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'm sure you know him, so I won't say anything.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know, he was in a band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, this is what's so interesting about you is like
You're like, "Oh, yes, that one. You're that one, aren't you?"
But so you are, to me, a necessity of this movement, right?
Thank
Because
you.
unfortunately, it's still a movement.
It is.
But at the same time, the stuff that, like the situations that you were putting yourself in are things that I know at your core you don't agree with, or like this is part of a bigger problem.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me to like see that you've what was it? Okay, so parents' validation.
Yep.
These things. But the uncomfortability of having, I hate to put it this way, but like penetration, I know is a big deal.
For me, that was like that's never been a part of my dysphoria.
Okay.
And it's because I think I was sexually active at a young age, and I've been traumatized sexually from a young age, to where I just don't have that kind of relationship with sex. You know, where it's I've been able, unfortunately, to learn how to dissociate through a lot of things, and that's one of them. You know, you're in a situation, and I put myself in these situations, and I don't regret the things that I've done. And it's because I know better now, you know, and I know why I was doing those things. I don't feel shame in regards to my teenage years, even though I did a lot of things that were not great for me. and a lot of people knew that. I was just searching for people that loved me.
Yeah.
And as a teenager who was so lost kind of in the world, my dad died. He was the only person that could fucking wrangle my mom to me, So I lost
Sure.
my like one backup for the crazy lady. I love you, Mom. I know you don't. I don't feel that way about you
But
now. I promise.
that security, that safety net,
It was gone.
yeah.
So I just
so
give up.
you're just. I mean, but your entire childhood, there was like when you play tag and you're like in the safe zone where you can't be tagged. That kept moving for you,
Yep.
and so
There was no safe zone.
yeah. So you just have that free falling and searching for where that was because it's somewhere.
It's somewhere. It's somewhere, and I'm gonna fucking put the line out as many times as I possibly can to find it, And so, yeah, I was hanging out with people that were way older than me, and I'm still friends with.
How did that happen though? How did you end up with the older crowd?
I would go to shows. I was online, like kind of in the mutual community
Sure.
online. And yeah, I just started going to shows, and yeah, this one person and I started forming a friendship that
Mhm.
later turned not just a friendship. Yeah, I was 14, just about to turn 15, and my mother was completely okay with him. She loved him. She thought he was a nice guy. And I will say, in the grand scheme of things, it could have been worse. I could have been really traumatized much worse by this man, He was doing his best. I would like to think that I think that he was on the spectrum, because he had siblings that were also on the spectrum, and it just made sense to me, like the things that he did.
It's wild that it's so funny because if people know either of us, they know exactly who we're talking about.
Yes.
And so
I'm so sorry. Yeah. There's no way for me to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
the story without,
But that whole group had so like it was like a formation of identity crisis.
Yes.
Like to watch them like later on in life, you're just like, oh wow, none of them knew what the fuck they were doing.
Nope, not a single one. Not a single fucking one. And that's the thing, is I am still friends with a lot of people that I knew back then, over decade-long relationships at this point, and I'm 22, and some of these people are, in their mid-30s.
Yeah.
And, I had one of these friends come in my, sit in my chair,
Oh, really?
a while ago. Yeah, it was like a month or so ago. And yeah, no, I still talk to a lot of them, and they, come visit me, and we're still good friends. But, they said to me, and this stuck with me, they were like, you just weren't an annoying teenager, like you were like okay to be around, like if you would have literally done anything annoying, we would have absolutely kicked you the fuck out. But like, we were just like, you were fine. I don't know. You didn't seem like you were a teenager, and I've heard that my entire life. You don't seem like X.
Yeah.
You're very mature very wise for your age, Oh God, I wish I would have known that when I was your age, like. And I've talked about this in therapy. And I'm like, why? Why am I the pariah? Like, why? What is it about my journey that's been so revolutionary to so many people that just come into contact with me for one conversation? It's like, I don't know what it was, but
they
yeah.
don't realize that, like, because again, you and I being so similar, like the trauma that, like this is a house built on trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
absolutely.
We would not be able to communicate, convey, relate, do all these things with you guys
Without a lot of
had we not been through all this insane shit.
Absolutely.
So like
scary shit.
That's the unfortunate thing is like because like the whole fucking music community at the same time collectively was like, hey, let's go after some minors.
Literally.
Like it was crazy.
It was nuts.
So,
and I mean,
but the part of that being they were the rejects.
Yes.
They don't have that safety net.
Yep.
They're still trying to figure out who the fuck they are. And then somebody gives them validation. So it's not necessarily that not all of them were predators.
No.
It was more so like, I can't get out of my own head enough to build a relationship with somebody that's like acceptable, right? So
well, it's not, the acceptable people didn't want them. That's the thing.
Also that.
Yeah, like all of the eligible 20-year-old women that could have been available for these 20-year-old didn't want them because they're
Yeah.
whiny little bitches. That's why.
That too. But I mean, you think about like Brand New,
Yo, yeah.
right? So
R.I.P. Yeah.
there was just, he was so clearly a dark and twisted individual that like, he was capable of being normal,
He was capable.
but it's so fucking hard to do that when somebody comes around and goes, I get it.
Yeah.
And not only do I get it, what you're talking about has shaped the way that I am.
Yeah.
And so when you form that attachment, it's like, why even bother with why try to explain myself
Yeah.
to people who are my age and like my like
Yes.
at my level or whatever? And yeah, so unfortunately, because they're not capable of dealing with their own shit, they fall
Of
into
course.
this really unhealthy pattern of
Going after people
Yeah.
that are way younger than them because
Yeah.
they have a chance to redo it, they think, and
well, and again, they don't have to explain anything. If
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
they are gonna just continue to be something positive for this person.
Absolutely. They get to be someone's white knight.
Yeah.
They get to be this little teenager's savior.
I'm a hero to this person. Of course, I'm gonna want to stay
and
and
then
be attached to them.
why was I, like that's another why was I hanging out with these people, And I think looking back, the only thing I can think of genuinely is I just have no way, especially at that time, I had no way of relating to kids my age. I
Yeah.
had zero equivalent experience to the people of my age group.
You know what's funny? Like, this is seems like a little thing, but is also a huge thing. You know where to stand or sit for band practice.
Yes.
Like, you learned that at such a young age.
I did.
Like,
I did know.
it's so easy for you to find the spot, whereas some people just stand holding their backpack or whatever the
Never.
fuck. And so the fact that you know where to sit,
He's seen me. He knows. He follows me wherever. Like if we're in a crowd or something, he's like, "You go." I'm like, "Don't worry. I know exactly where we're going." But yes.
But yeah, so that little thing, like back to the whole them saying you're not annoying, like it's because unfortunately this is how your dad wanted to prove that he was cool,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like
I knew. It was my world, and I did want to be a musician. I wanted to be in that world when I was younger. I realized it was not a very viable career. So, I still play drums and stuff, like just for fun.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to have it. I don't want any stress with it. Music, once you put seriousness onto it, it's not as fun. So, like I just enjoyed being around musicians and like, having that be a part of my world. I thought I was aligning myself with where I wanted to be. I was trying to, I'd like to think I've been smart for a while. I knew at a young age I had to put myself with people that could get me where I wanted to go.
Oh, sure.
And so even just something, just a little door in, And so, yeah, of course I was going to want to hang out with the people in the bands and stuff. And they were letting me. So, of course, I'm going to because they like me, I thought I was fucking hot shit, I thought I was so cool. And like, sure, maybe I am cool. But I was also a very traumatized child that should have been able to have teenage experiences. And that's what I tell a lot of the kids, because I have a few that try and ask me about life advice. And I am not the kind of person that most parents want their child to get life advice from, Like, I dropped out of high school. I was a drug addict. I've definitely had struggles with alcohol.
Sorry to cut you off,
No.
but like, because we are in like similar like worlds too, when somebody who is a teenager talks about having an older relationship, that like pit in your stomach of like, oh no.
Red alert. Nope.
And
Tell
like,
him right now.
because it's the things that you would say when you were their age, which is, I just, guys my age don't get me.
Yep.
This and that. And it's like, it's so hard to explain. Like, you don't realize like how dangerous of a situation you're in right now.
Yes. And
that could shape you for fucking ever.
Yeah, and I mean, I was there. I had plenty of people telling me I was not doing.
What do you tell those kids now?
Usually I just say like, okay, so
I'm 17. Okay. I'm
okay.
dating somebody who's 21.
Mm-hmm.
He's in school.
Okay.
And I met him at a party.
Got it.
And I mean, my parents are fine with it. So I don't.
Do you see yourself being with him long term? Has he said, is he going to be with you long term?
Well, he doesn't answer his phone a lot of the time.
Why not?
Oh, he's kind of a dick, but like.
Oh, well, okay. See, if people are telling me something like that, if like I have a teenager telling me
But
something,
that's the weird thing is like
they're
they'll
just being
say
naive.
the kids that I talk to that it's like this pattern of like they want to date older men, but
Yes.
they also are acknowledging that they're shitty.
Yes.
And it's like, well, just date shitty men your age
just
then.
don't date them.
Or just don't date at all.
I genuinely believe, like, I date whoever the fuck you want, whatever. But just like generally, I tell the teenagers that are in my chair, like, okay, all of this will come. The relationships, the freedom, the fun, all is gonna come. There's a timeline. Let yourself get there. Like I did not give myself the ability to learn in a healthy way how to like deal with life stress and like coping mechanisms. I just kind of threw myself off the deep end. And that's not great. I made it, I'm here to tell the tale, but like you give yourself the chance to like learn your limits, and like learn what you want to be around with people, and like what's important to you. You don't have to have set answers for what you want to do with the rest of your life right now, but you for sure don't need to be in a relationship that's any type of commitment right now.
Right.
Because I always tell them like I'm still learning more about me every day. I remember being right where you are, man, and I thought I had everything put together. I had a plan. I thought I knew everything. And I didn't at all. I was doing my best to survive in a really tough situation. And I learned how to be really outgoing and, learn about things that would make people interested to be around me and that kind of a thing. And you don't need to do that, like uh any people that are older than you, there is no reason why they should be hanging out with you because honestly, buddy, I love you, but I don't want to hang out with you on my Friday night,
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like you and I have two different paths and that's okay. I'm not saying you're a fucking little stupid kid, like you deserve to not have 20-something-year-olds ruining your
Yes.
chance at being a teenager, And that's what I always say if that does come upon me, where, yeah, the 20-something, 30-something-year-olds that have no problem hanging around teenagers really bother me. They're not right in the head.
Yeah.
They need help, because that is not normal. You should not want to be relating to a teenager in any way other than like how I do with my kids, which is like fun Uncle Dan,
Yeah.
You come sit in my chair, tell me about the drama of your, your school day or whatever, I'll try and help you out as much as I can. That's about it,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give them a fucking beer, I can't imagine people doing that to me now as someone who works with kids, like absolutely nuts thinking about adults being okay giving children drugs and alcohol. Let them get there, they will find it. We all did,
Yeah.
Giving your child like, yes, this is a thing. You have to tell them that yes, people do take drugs. That is a thing people do. Same with drinking. There's a lot of environments in which, you can get yourself put into a kind of scary situation, but this is how you get there without doing that,
Yeah.
And for me, I know my limits at this point. I drink. I'm someone who has 2 drinks and I'm good. I drink maybe twice, 3 times a month, max. And it's because I know that I know when I need to say stop to myself or other people.
Sure.
And it took a long time to be able to do that. Because after my dad died, I was like, fuck it, whatever. because
Yeah.
he wasn't supposed to die first. Everyone in my family, because of my mom's physical problems, thought she was gonna die first. So
Hmm.
I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this man who is, way healthier, like just dying at 44. He was 44.
Oof.
Yeah. No, and I mean that's why another reason I'm really happy for you. Like your child is the age I was when I lost my dad, and like thinking about that, that's crazy, and I'm happy to see someone be able to get there, because that's one thing I'll never be able to get from mine. He didn't have a redemption arc.
Yeah.
He never got to have the redemption arc. He died because of his uh, just internalizing everything. I always
Yeah.
say, like, he is a great example of how long it takes for a bomb to detonate
Wow.
in someone, because that's what it was. It's 44, relatively healthy person otherwise. And yeah, like it's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
Especially when you got a lot on your plate. You got a big, beautiful house. You got 2 kids, got the
Well,
dog.
again, this is the house that trauma built. Like that whole thing of
Yes.
like, one thing that I talked to Lynn, the last person that was on, was we have cool jobs, right?
Yeah,
So
I'd like to think.
we have tattoos,
Yeah.
piercings, like
We're cool.
outwardly, especially to younger people. Like,
Absolutely.
people are like, holy shit, I can't believe
6-year-olds tell me I'm their favorite hairdresser because I'm like a video game character they would pick. I'm not a real adult to children, and that's my favorite thing.
But so where those band people saw this recognition as a chance to make unfortunately inappropriate connections.
Yep.
What I see is like, yes, I'm a piercer, but it's also like more of an excuse to tell you what I think about
Yes.
mental health, about
Mhm.
addiction, like all these things, because people want to open up.
Yes.
Hairdresser is like notorious. People want to tell you all the
Least paid
things.
therapists. Absolutely.
So same thing with piercing. Like people open
Yeah.
up like so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm with somebody for an hour tops.
Yep.
Like that's a long session.
Yep.
People will tell me their entire life story.
Yes.
And so rather than, I don't know. It's this weird thing of there is an imposter syndrome still
Yes.
associated with
Yep.
it for sure.
Absolutely.
Because I'm definitely not cool enough to be
I feel you,
like
brother.
people looking at me the way that they do.
You. If only y'all see what I do at home, and it's not much,
But yeah, to have this fucked up past, and it could have gone many ways.
Could have gone way worse. Yeah.
Now I have this bag of like caution signs for people
Yes.
to be like,
I can
because
lead.
people will come on and like you've said it a bunch of times, which is parents were doing the best that they could. It's not your job to make up for
Nope.
the way that your parents were. And I say that because it's not Landon's job to make me feel better about the shit that he had to see
Absolutely.
when his dad was being a massive addict.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so it's interesting, like the conversations that you have. And again, I was drilling you about the whole like proclivity thing because
Totally.
it's the advice that we wish we could have given ourselves.
God, I wish. Yeah. No,
But it's also this opportunity that we now have to talk to
gift.
people the way that it's that shit that we were searching for.
It's a gift.
Yeah,
We get to give to people.
It's a weird like I say it a lot. I'm lucky to have gone through all of the
Yes.
shit that I went through and come out the other side.
Yeah, and I absolutely feel the same way. I've gone through plenty of things that would make someone probably just give up on the whole like people are decent idea. I try and give people a reason to believe in a good thing. Good people exist, and they don't have a certain look. You won't know until you encounter one.
Yeah.
Genuinely good people don't have to say that they're good.
Right.
And so, I live my life trying to do as much good as I can for other people, or at least leave a neutral impression. It's never our job to make anyone else's lives harder, is one thing I've learned.
Absolutely.
It is not our job to be purposefully making things harder for people. And I think some current internet celebrities they love making people uncomfortable, and they love making sure women know that they feel a certain way about them.
Oh, sure.
Like the Andrew Tates of the world.
Good Lord.
I had a 15-year-old one time talk to me about Andrew Tate and was trying to tell me how good, his points were. And I had to give this 15-year-old a fucking life lesson that day on how we don't watch people like Andrew Tate for advice. And this is another fun part of being trans is like I said earlier, I don't get misgendered really at all anymore. People see me as Dan. I'm Dan the man, That's how my clients call me,
Yeah.
There is no inkling of anything other than a man.
That's actually what I'm going to put instead of Dan Dotseth when
Dan
the
the
fucking
man.
thing, what do they call it? The cryon goes across.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be Dan the man instead.
Absolutely. You know what? And I embrace it with open arms. Because being a trans man and being the example of what men should be for some people is a great feeling to me. Because I grew up around a lot of cis men that wished that they could have that kind of effect.
Oh, yeah.
With people, feeling like that's a genuine form of masculinity, or like this is a man, And it's just because of how I interact with people, I know what I'm good at, and in my work anyway, I'm very confident in what I do, and people trust that and just feel secure with that,
Yeah.
But yes, this 15-year-old, I had to tell him, yeah, it is not our job to make women's lives more difficult. It is not our job to do anything other than be helpful to people that need it. And you and I are never going to have to deal with the same shit that they have to deal with. And I was pointing at all of my female stylist coworkers at the time. I was like, it's not our job to make them uncomfortable. It's not our job to do anything other than make sure that they are comfortable to do their jobs, or just live in general, and people like that man are the types of people that have not been able to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
They have refused to see reality, which is if you don't act like a dick to women, they might like you. Like if you don't feel like you're entitled to their time and them as a person, they might be a little more interested in you, if you show a modicum of respect. It's so sad, actually, the bar that is where most women hope men to be at. It's like, oh, he texts me every day. Oh, like, he's got open communication. He doesn't lie, he maybe gets me flowers sometimes. I'm like, that is the bare minimum of what a man should be doing for you, know?
The whole, like, meninist movement,
oh my God.
The biggest,
why did you have to bring that up again? No.
I just want to say, like, quickly, and then I got to wrap this up.
No, that's all right.
But the biggest problem, and it goes back to what you were talking about with your dad, was like that fear of engagement with a gay individual.
Yes.
Is this concept that for some reason every interaction is an opportunity to form a physical relationship with somebody.
It's like it's dirty.
It doesn't have to be.
No.
And for some reason, men, they go into a bar. Every single woman is an opportunity for this physical interaction. If you just talk to them like, how was your day going?
Like a normal human?
Like the same way that you would engage a conversation with a guy.
Yeah.
You can do that with women. And
they're not these magical creatures that we need like a playbook for. They are people, and it's funny for me because like I was a woman, but I never was. I was
going
like
to say,
acting.
but were you?
I was acting. I was trying to act like a normal one, and it never worked. Obviously, we're here today. See how well that turned out. But yeah, no. So like, I absolutely understand like the underlying factors of being a woman, and like I grew up around a lot more women than men, and all that. And so, as a trans man who's I can see both sides, The people that know me today don't know that,
Oh,
And so
sure.
I have a level of, it's like, haha, if only y'all knew that I actually am this aware because of that.
It would be funny if you had like some machismo guy friends and
I do.
they tried to sack tap you and you're like, uh-oh.
I have.
Secrets. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I've been at a party and there'd be like piss on the ground, and I'm like, who the fuck pissed on the ground? And everyone's like, oh, it's not me, and I'm like, I know it's not me. I don't have the hardware for that. Okay.
But yeah, so like I was saying, like just that for some reason this, and it's a societal thing, unfortunately too.
Mm-hmm.
You look around the world, there's different forms of it, but the baseline is that for some reason somebody of the opposite sex, and I mean it's mostly men, I feel like, for some reason if you interact with a new person, there's this, even if you're like a married, like it doesn't
Yes.
matter where you're at, for some reason this mentality of like I have to talk to you like you're an option.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to speak in a way that makes me seem like I'm a good catch or whatever
Yes.
the fuck, like
Yep.
I don't know, it's very weird.
It's the big big buck hunter mentality that men have. It's like, okay, that's a hot lady at the bar. I'm gonna go get it, and then they get it, and then they don't like that she likes to go out. They don't like that she hangs out with her friends. They don't
Oh.
like that she wears slutty clothes. But that's why you wanted her in the first place. It's the big buck hunter mentality.
Yeah.
Just a trophy.
But yeah, we're two weirdo examples of people who can have conversations with people of the opposite sex or of the preferred sex, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to say.
And not having to look at it from the perspective of this is a potential for a relationship. They're just human beings. They're just people, and you can just talk to them
absolutely
on the same playing field.
Don't put anything on anything until it happens.
Yeah.
I always say I focus on the right here and right now because, there's no point in thinking about the past because it happened already.
Yeah.
So I think I try to just, live extremely day to day. And I know some people think that that's bad, but for me, I'm being mindful day to day of what I'm doing and how that affects the people in my life and me and my situation, And it's turned out pretty okay up until this point, I'd like to
I was
think.
going to say, the last thing that I was going to ask you was, like I said, the Dan that I met was like, you were in the trenches with people, and now you're mellow Dan.
Yep.
Rather than like getting the whole history of like how you ended up there, what advice would you give for people? Because there are people who still feel like they have to be like white knuckling fighting every single day. So what advice do you have for those individuals? Does that make sense where I'm trying to go?
Yeah. Okay. You don't have to do it alone. It's not like a thing that we have to fight alone. And I think a lot of people think that struggling is a part of it, a part of our journey.
Okay.
Or like, have a hard time just saying that you might have something that you can't deal with, whether that be physically or mentally, and being able to be real with yourself is very important. I would not be here today if it had not been for the just drive I have to try and make it better, my life better. And you just got to find something that gives you that drive. Doesn't like, I hate working to work, I'm happy to have a job where I get to do good things, And so finding things like that in your life that you don't have to struggle. You're not forcing yourself to struggle. It's okay to like be happy. It's not like this thing that's like safeguarded until a certain checkpoint in your life where you get to be happy now. Don't do a job if you don't want to do it. Like don't get into a career if you don't feel 3,000% sure that you want to do that, Don't hang out with people if you feel like they don't care about you that much, It's okay to prioritize yourself because when you prioritize yourself, it makes everything else better in your life because you have more to give other people when you do have more in you that you've had the time to put into instead of just hoping and praying that these little bits of information and advice are going to stick with someone. Like I live by what I feel and I know that means that it works. I would like to think I'm a pretty happy and content person and that no one would ever think that I did not come from a very, very stable and good, well-rounded home, And that's what I like. because anyone can be happy. You just have to like choose to be happy.
That's awesome. Dan, fucking thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Of course.
Glad we finally got to have the conversation. I mean, it's funny because I'm looking at this. The only reason I'm cutting it off is because I have like 10,000 more questions. So
I'll come back. Feel
yeah,
free.
I was gonna say I'll have to have you come back because
For sure.
there's a bazillion things that I want to talk about.
Absolutely.
Sal, thank you for
Thank you for
chilling.
being my
Yeah,
support-
no worries.
support
It was good listening in.
Yeah.
Could you say in Portuguese and to the listeners, be well to yourselves? You got to look into that camera.
Be well to yourselves.
Yeah.
Estejam bem consigo mesmos.